going to leave us, unfortunately, from my opinion. And I guess if you were a lobbyist, if all you were lobbyists, real estate lobbyists, which you are, because you are constantly selling what you do to others, and you would recommend to the likely new candidate that happens to be a liberal democratic platform, again, coming from over 20 years of Republican rule in the city, and I'm not a Republican, 8 years of Giuliani and 12 years of Bloomberg, if you were wanting to sleep better at night, knowing that we had someone at the helm that's watching real estate interests, what would be the 3 major things that you would want to hammer home to the new administration to keep our city great from a real estate perspective, from an investor perspective, to make that happen? And Paul, we'll start with you, then we'll go. It's a tough question. You can take the Fifth Amendment here, but
I always try and stay away from politics, and I'll stay away from politics, but clearly one of the key things that's important to all of us sitting here is continuing to be pro-business in New York, and I also think being pro-development in New York. Although we talk about a lot of development that's going on, and you heard it from the panel earlier this morning, and I think for New York to maintain its competitive advantage, given how old the stock of office buildings we have here in New York are, we need to be pro-development and continue to be creative about the ways we do that. And I think those are the first 2 things that would come to mind. And I guess if I had to pick a third, clearly, one of the political hot buttons that everybody talks about is taxes, is really trying to find a way to balance the budget and to balance their focus on taxes, and the best way to do that.
Apolitical statement, infrastructure for the city is important to maintain. We move a lot of people around. We need to make critical investments in that space. I think the city's way bigger than one mayor, one administration. The expression at a dinner last night, the place has institutionalized itself in a good way, so I'm optimistic almost regardless. And people, we've done a lot of great things in terms of people's quality of life in the city, safety and what have you, so I'd like to keep that at a minimum, and no reason why this next administration wouldn't believe the same thing.
Mr. Saltzman?
I would focus on jobs. To me, that's kind of the epicenter of stability and success for any jurisdiction, whether it's a city or a state or a country. So whatever is going to foster steady employment, growth in employment, combined with just having perspective about balance, that there's a lot of different constituencies which are really critical to the success of the city. And you have to take all of those interests into consideration as you're establishing policy to govern.
If I answer the question honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is safety. And safety, you might not think about it as an important business imperative, but it really is, because what's made New York City grow and thrive as it has over the last 20 years is the fact that so many people want to stay and live and work here and raise their families, and also the tourism has just been booming. So last year, the year before, the tourism level was at 50 million. Last year was at 52 million. We don't know what it's going to be yet for this year, but we expect it to be as high or higher. And if anything happens in our city that makes it less safe or appear to be less safe, and those positive trends turn around, I think it would be a very negative thing for the city. Otherwise, I certainly agree with everything my fellow panelists have said.
This is admittedly a little self-serving, but I think one of the keys is the relationship between the city and Wall Street and the financial services industry, and everyone can have a different opinion on what's been going right and what's been going wrong, and what was done and that shouldn't have been done. But like it or not, the financial services industry remains the driver of the city, and the tax base of the city, and job growth within the city. So there needs to be a good partnership between government and the financial services industry, in addition to all business and job growth and all of that. But the financial industry in particular, which has taken its lumps and been a little bit of an easy target for political rhetoric, the relationship between the city and that industry in particular, I think needs to remain strong. And then my second and third would be don't raise taxes and don't raise taxes.
Just following up on that, I think the demonization of Wall Street, bad people, if they did bad things, whatever appropriate should happen, should happen. What's happened to financial services has been a little masked in the city because of the technology surge. If the tech sector stumbles, New York City will really feel it because it has really made up for, in a lot of parts of the city, the decrease in financial services. We would be in a very different situation if the tech sector and the media, social media, where New York is actually outpacing Silicon Valley. Without that happening at that time, we would all be sitting here with a very different view of New York City. So I think it's important to note that we have that risk, and if financial services keep declining and they stumble, I think that's a problem. I would encourage the new administration to really continue to focus on public-private partnerships. I'm a little afraid that that's not going to be accepted as much. If you look at the High Line, it's incalculable almost of what the High Line has done psychologically, real estate values, which means property taxes, and so much in tourism. The High Line is spectacular, everybody knows it. But there's been some commentary from people with the new administration about public-private partnership. If someone's going to fund this, they have to take some of that money and put it somewhere else. So the Central Park Conservatory, they're going to make them put 20% of what they raise from people and put it into other parks. We want the city to all be lifted, but private capital goes to where there's a return on it. And I think that for infrastructure in particular, which is a big need, we all know, continuing to encourage at the same time that you can lift up everyone would be really important. And financial services broadly is important, but also encouraging the tech, which is most kind of midtown south, and it's really taken over and helped the office market substantially. Let's make sure they do well. Otherwise, we're going to start relying more and more on financial services again, which probably isn't great.
So just quickly.